Hi, how's everyone out there doing? This is Amy Hamilton, author of The Project Manager, Life is a Project, and The Consummate Communicator, Character Traits of True Professionals. I am super excited to be here today with Gary Barnes. And I'm just going to say, I know Gary because of a mutual friend of ours, Michelle Mraz, who is by far one of my favorite people in the entire world and who was on this show back in November. And Gary, I'm going to open it up a little different than I normally do, but can you tell our audience a little bit about Denim and Pearls?
Denim and Pearls is something that Michelle does with another host, and it's really an exciting program that she does.
Oh, I am so sorry, Gary. You are with her on the Master Speakers program, right?
Yes.
Michelle does so much. It just blows my mind. I apologize for that.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Any shout out we can give to Michelle, though, for her Denim and Pearls, her Master Speaking series. If you guys don't know Michelle, she's phenomenal. And definitely check her out from the previous episodes of 24 Authors in 12 Hours. Gary wrote a book that's so intriguing that I knew if I didn't get some of the shout outs out, it's going to just take us down a path that I'm not sure where we're going to go today. And Gary is a professional coach. He is a professional speaker. He is an author. His website is at the bottom here. Check out his materials because you will just be absolutely in awe. And I know that for the next 30 minutes, you are going to hear these tales. And if you have not had a chance to read the title of his book is titled How a Beaver Saved My Life. And when I read the title, I just want to say the author before you, Raven West, her title was almost as intriguing. It was called Red Wine for Breakfast. So I just thought, wow, what a great lineup. I'm going to have some red wine with my breakfast, and then I'm going to figure out how a beaver could save anyone's life. But not just that, but your life, Gary. Because when I look at your website, I think this guy is so together. This guy is just somebody who's got, the tiger by the tail. So tell us now, I'm going from tigers by the tail metaphor to how did a beaver save your life, Gary?
It's an interesting story, and it's one of the unique things. It's not the original title of the book. The original title was Into the Night, The Road from Adversity to Triumph. And a person had heard me speak and had invested in the book. And a few days later, a 3.5-foot beaver showed up on my doorstep. It was a stuffed animal. It wasn't a real beaver.
I was like, a 3.5-foot beaver is a big beaver. I mean, that's
a big beaver. And he is now called Big Buddy Beaver, and he's holding Little Buddy Beaver, and they're now ambassadors. But I told my coach at the time that somebody had sent me this beaver, and he got so excited because he said, we're going to change the title. And the title became How a Beaver Saved My Life. And when we did that, it took me to PBS. TEDx called me to do TEDx. And primarily it was that intriguing pattern interrupt of the title that actually he became aware of who I am. And PBS, when I wrote my 9th book, PBS then called me and said, would I like to come back? But the door opener was really the How a Beaver Saved My Life. And what happened was in 1988, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I was told that I would be dead or in a wheelchair within 10 years. And I didn't like that. It was right in the middle of, I owned at the time one of the largest financial planning firms in the country. I didn't have time for the detour. I didn't have time for the speed bump. And so they gave me virtually no hope. He said, go home, enjoy your boys, enjoy your family while you're here, but you will be in a wheelchair or dead within 10 years. And so I knew about Norman Cousins and what he did with laugh therapy. I knew about in the day of the video games where Pac-Man was eating up the cancer patients were eating up the bed cancer cells with the Pac-Man image. And they didn't really do anything. So I'm laying in bed one night thinking about what could I visualize. And you got to remember, in 1988, there was not a lot talked about around visualization. And so I was laying there, and all of a sudden an image of a beaver shows up. And I'm going, okay, a beaver. My animal has always been the eagle, but he turned around and came over and started patching up the myelin sheath. And that's the covering that covers our nerves. And for whatever reason, within the diagnosis of the MS, that dissolves. And so he came over. I thought, oh, okay, can't hurt. Came back the next night, and I figured if one beaver is good, more is better. And I created a whole army of beavers. And, and this is at a time, by the way, that I was numb from the neck down. I had lost all feelings from the neck down, lost the ability to write, to walk. And so I just stayed in this visualization.
And how old were you at that time?
33.
33, unable to walk, had this major company, and now here you are.
And you don't tell people that a doctor thinks you're going to, be dead in 10 years. As a financial planner, they don't want to give you money. And so I really didn't tell anybody. I adjusted as I went. The other thing that I really did during that time was I never owned the illness. I never, ever have said I have something. I've always said I was diagnosed with, which meant it was someone else's opinion.
No, I think that's really profound about don't let somebody put you in that box. Like you've defined who you are. And so you were supposed to live 10 years, and that was a couple decades ago. So you are obviously doing much better than ever predicted by the doctors. And go ahead, Gary.
Oh, I was going to say, I call it bonus time now.
Oh, that is wonderful. And I will tell you, I hear so many people who talk about the trials and tribulations right now during the COVID. And one of the great things about the authors is authors are always looking at it as like, I have more time to write. I have more time to refocus, and really just kind of taking what some people might view as a negative and turning it into something positive and something that, can really be valuable. So you have written 9 books total. We have started talking about how a beaver saved your life. Can you tell us a little bit about 1 or 2 of your other books?
Another one is called Spend and Grow Rich. It's not about how much money you make, it's how you spend it. And the question I ask in that book is how come some people spend and grow poor and others spend and grow rich? And it's about the management of it. It's not an investment book. My last book is one that is really fun because it's called The Power of GET Statements. And it's how to reboot your brain for success, how to program your brain. It's a process that I created about 25 years ago. And I have taught all over the world, which really is exciting for me to be able to see people actually get results in their lives where they were stuck in the past. And so it's just an interesting journey. I have to say, I'm one of your authors that never wanted to be an author. Writing is not my love. Speaking, I enjoy. I just love audiences and connecting and hearing people's stories. I never learned how to type. So it's particularly, I never got my feelings really back in my hands. These are my typing fingers. And so I have used the voice activating software for transcription. I've spoken all of my books. But I never really thought that, why would anybody want to read my story? What was it that I had to offer? And so I would consider myself the reluctant author. But I realized something, that when you become an author, you're able to touch more lives. And Joe Vitale, from people may know him from The Secret, actually took my story and published it for the first time. And I went, "Whoa, that's interesting." And people started getting interested in it. And, it just is one of those things that I have really realized the power of writing, the power of, leaving a legacy in written form.
A couple of our authors have brought up that point, especially Raven West just did. And, talking about like she has 3 children, but her books are actually kind of like, her biggest legacy. I think that for authors, so often it's a challenge for us because we want to get the word out there and we feel like there is a message or a story that we want to share. one of the great things about the situation today, though, is it's opened up so much of international audience. So the show that we have today, we have speakers from India, we have speakers from South Africa, New Zealand, the UK, and the United States, all the way up to Alaska, which is really exciting. You're in Colorado Springs, correct?
Colorado, Denver.
Denver. And what's the weather like out there today?
A little cool, but we have been without snow for most of the winter, which has been unusual but nice.
Yeah, especially right now when we're having to do so much more of our activities outside if we do want to have any socialization.
Yeah.
So, Gary, we're about halfway through the segment. One of the things I wanted to point out to the audience is my books today, January 20th, available free all day at Amazon.com. Please check them out if you get a chance and download them to your Kindle. And, Gary, I know that we have your website here. Would you like to talk to the audience about what they would find at your website and what you have going on there?
One of the things that I have committed, because like I said, I own one of the largest financial planning firms. I sold it about 17 years ago, and my clients kept asking me how I built my businesses so quickly and so fast to a high level. Quickly and fast, that was a redundancy. So what I do now really became an organic reaction from the folks that were around me. And I started doing the coaching, and I've been a speaker my entire life. My early background was psychology and theology, which kind of I always say I argued with myself from a very early age. But the thing that I was able to do was be able to take the story and to be able to give people that ability to, wherever they're at, to be able to take the message that they have, their product, their service, to their perfect client. And a lot of times what we find is that people don't have permission to be seen. I have a process that I call Be Seen, Be Safe, Be Relevant. And becoming an author, having the ability to share in a celebrity way, if we really look at it, that I am the subject, but I am not the message. And really, that's what my website is all about. It's about stories, it's about processes, it's about connection, how we can actually support each other so that everyone can actually win. It's not about I win and you lose. And so I have created the processes for how to create a stage. I do a 3-day boot camp every year, actually twice a year.
And you have a boot camp coming up, right?
I do at the end of January here in Denver, both in person and virtual. And it's number 39. And so it was really a way to be able to reach more people. Like what you just said, becoming that, having that ability to reach an international market. In fact, your first guest is one of my clients, and it came out of them coming to the virtual stage in last September. And so being able to touch more people in a meaningful way is really about not selling more stuff. Everybody has stuff to sell. And that takes nothing away from being a very efficient and valuable person in the marketplace with whatever it is that you have to offer. But it's really beyond that. What does the dollars do? What is the benefit beyond? There's another concept that I share that it's not a so what moment, but a so that moment. Everything we do is not about the period. It's about the never ending story. And how do we embrace and engage and expand? Most people around the first of the year always adopt a new word for the year. And my word is always going to be the same from here on out, and that's the word expansion. I've built the foundation. Now it's just a matter of expanding. But it's really fun because I'm able to showcase other people. And, when we spoke, I talked about, really allowing the community that I have influences knowing about you. And it's about coming together and going together.
You bring up so many great points there, and I want to pull on a thread that you just talked about. It's not really about winning. It's about the journey and this never ending story. And what is your advice right now? Whether people, whether it's reading a book, writing a book, whether it's go out there starting their own business, what's your advice right now to people who just don't know what to do about taking that next step?
I'm going to take something from Nike, just do it. One of the things that I do recommend to all of my clients, no matter what the industry is write a book. Once you write a book, there is a process that I teach around called elevate and separate. It's about stepping into your light. It's about stepping into your celebrity. And when I ask people, are you a celebrity? Most of the time I get, no, I'm not. And I go, well, let me give you a different definition. My definition of celebrity is how am I different from, not better than. And so it's not about look at me, it's about hear me. And so being able to write a book, there is something very, very special in the marketplace where people elevate that above being a speaker, being a lot of the weird things that I have done in life. But when people hear I'm an author, they go, oh, you're an author? I've never been right next to an author. I'm going, really? It's like, I wrote the book, I printed the book, it's just like, but, it's really that. Please have the courage to be seen. Don't be the best kept secret. Be safe. Have no agenda. Coming on your program today, my agenda is to share, is to be with you, to support you. Now, we all have an agenda in business to have revenue that comes into our process. We have to be able to sustain the business. But if we have that, it's called dollar signs in the eyes, and people will know it. When you really want to know somebody else's story and you're actively listening, you become what I call a people magnet. And then to be relevant, if you have a product or service now that was needed before COVID, it is even more needed today. We're having to change and do things differently. But it's going to be worth it. Out of adversity is the seeds of greatness. That's actually a book by Dennis Waitley back in the day. Norman Vincent Peale said when he saw problems coming down the hall, he says, where have you been? I've been preparing for you my entire life. And so adversity is the stimulus where our next level of success actually is. So instead of running from it, let's engage it. Let's look at what people around us are asking for and give it to them. That's a old J. Paul Getty, find a need and fill it.
No, it's such a great point. One of my favorite quotes along that is that growth never happens in the comfort zone. And I just think that's so true. And as authors, I've been really stretched recently. Instead of writing in my genre, where I feel very comfortable in business leadership fables, I've written 2 book chapters, one of which is coming out in Palgrave in April. And I always joke about academic press. It makes no sense to me that they're going to charge a phenomenal amount of money for that book, and I will get absolutely nothing from it. But to be an academically published author, is a game changer. And then the other one is an anthology that Michelle Moras is putting together. And so both those are really outside my writing comfort zone. And Gary, as a writer who's written 9 different books, what's your advice for writing outside of your comfort zone? Because it appears that you really have a diverse collection.
I do. And really is following your heart, staying in your core. The first book that I have had on the agenda to write still is not written. And the Beaver book, when I finally decided to really do it, I wrote it in 6 days, or I spoke it in 6 days. And I didn't spend any more than about 2.5 hours. The other thing that I would really recommend for writing a book is write your story, your experience first. But make that, again, that's the subject, but not the message. My message in the Beaver book is obstacles are normal. I wrote it in a way that it didn't matter if a person was going through a relationship, economic, physical, spiritual. They could take the principles of what I did through that process and apply it to their life. So it really became an adversity book, not a multiple sclerosis book. And, all the way through, we have people that are saying, you can't, instead of how can I? And when you really attach to the mission, the purpose of what you're doing, allow that project to just release. But if you're staying in your core, it's going to come out very simply. And I shouldn't say simply. It is simply, but it's not always easy. Because again, I think most of us want to be perfect. When you put something out in print, uh, you can get shot. And one of the things that I like to share is that even the dictionary has misspelled words in it. There are mistakes in the dictionary. And so instead of looking for perfection, become perfectly imperfect. Allow your story, your message, your model, your process, your product to be available to the people that really are waiting for you to show up that don't even know you're there. And so it goes back to Nike, just do it.
I really love that message that you just shared, Gary. This whole concept of being perfectly imperfect. We're in such a stressful world right now, and people put this stress on themselves because they want to be perfect. They want everything to go exactly as planned. And so often it's just chaotic, it doesn't go as planned. And, as you're aware for this event, I thought everything was ready. And then I had some authors canceled and some last minute fills. And the whole time, I would feel the stress, and then I would say, you know what, this is what's meant to be. These are the people who are meant to speak. And then for the authors who weren't able to make it, also, I hope for them, for their families, for the reasons why they weren't able to make it, that everything is the best for them, and they can come on the show at a later date. We are getting close to the end of time. And is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we haven't covered? I feel like this has just been such an amazing conversation with you, Gary.
Well, thank you so much. There is something that I teach around called the power of yes. And like you said, I'm about a week and a half out from a major event that we have international people fly in for it here in Colorado. And when the opportunity comes up, you say yes and figure out how to make it work. In fact, when I was asked to speak for TEDx, it wasn't even on my radar. And when he told me the date, it was right in the middle this Saturday of one of my 3-day events. And I went, oh, golly, how can I do this? I have a responsibility to my attendees. And when I said the power of yes, I was able to still do it, serve everyone, but I had to figure out a workaround, and nobody even knew that I was gone for the couple of hours that I did that. So was it perfect? No. But the power of yes is taking that opportunity, not judging the opportunity, and showing up. And when you do that, amazing, amazing things happen. And like you said, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. It's about the people that are in the right timing will show up in the right way. And those connections are so invaluable. And with you and I have a new friend.
Thank you so much, Gary. And I'm looking forward to more collaborations with you in the future. Such a great experience, and so important to the power of yes, being perfectly imperfect. And hopefully no one else out there has to be saved by a 3.5-foot beaver, but certainly something that catches your attention. Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome. Thank you.